What up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of the Fair City podcast about podcasts. I'm David, and I am majorly excited by our guest on this episode. However, I suppose I should introduce my co-host first. The Buff Geeks version of the man in the chair, the Alfred to my Batman, our man on the sofa, the third Chuckle Brother. Hashtag it's Steve.
Hello everyone, how you doing?
How are you doing, Steve?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah.
You excited?
Very much. Yes, very much excited for tonight. Absolutely buzzing when the sort of final confirmation came through a few hours ago. I was like, yes, here we go, we're going to do it. Exciting times.
So, I'm going to introduce the guest now, and I've been working on this. It's 100% original. So, producer of the horror comedy A Serial Killer's Guide to Life, starring the very funny Poppy Rowe and Katie Braben, director of the vampire documentary World of Darkness and the psychological horror feature The Dare, hopefully one of my future directors too, we have Giles Alderson of the Filmmakers podcast.
Yay! Yes! Give myself a round of applause. I am good, thanks, boys. How are you lot doing?
Oh, good, Giles,
Awesome.
good, yeah.
Awesome.
I kind of feel like you did on episode 54 with Alex Ferrari, you know, when you introduced your own podcast as the Indie Film Hustle almost.
And that was funny. I know. I love that. And actually what I'd done on that podcast, I'd cut out all the stuff where I was talking about how I was geeking out like Bog. And I totally cut it out. And then I realised after I put it up, I went, oh, I didn't put anything up about me going, you're my inspiration. All of that stuff I totally cut out. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, no, he's a huge inspiration for me, him at Indie Film Hustle. Yeah, I did the same thing. Just started talking about his podcast as introducing it as mine.
It's great. So yeah, today's podcast today's featured podcast, I can't even speak right now, is the Filmmakers podcast. You've heard us mention it before, and hopefully you've listened to it. So we'll get into that. So what have you been up to recently, Giles, apart from podcasting?
Apart from podcasting.
Speaks like you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Apart from podcasting, I've been I'm prepping a TV series at the moment, which I'm directing. So I'm going over to Sweden on Monday to look at some locations, wrecking all that. We're casting at the moment. We're getting crewed up for it, so that's really exciting. Not only that, but I've been back and forth to Bulgaria as well to finalise the Dare, do all the last little bits of VFX and the grade. And I just submitted it to a load of festivals as well. So, fingers crossed. I submitted it as a working title, even though there's only a few bits left. But I've heard that people submit them with a lot worse, finished.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been really busy. I'm also starting my vegan documentary as well, which I'm really excited about. So there's a few other things that's happening. This just sounds too much if I just say those as well. So I'll just leave it there. plus you never know if they're going to happen. So you sort of go, all right, well, these are the ones that are happening for now. So. And
I've seen the Serial Killer's Guide has just been entered into the Edinburgh International Film Festival as well. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's got picked up for the work in progress section with Staten and Poppy. The makers of that, Staten directed it. So that's really exciting. Yeah. It's really good news. It's such a good film. I saw a little bit of it the other day. I saw it all the other day. Spoiler alert for me. So it's really nice to see the full finished edit, if you like. Not finished edit, that's ridiculous. To see a finished version, a working edit of it. And and even at that stage, you're still going, okay, this is really good. Can't wait to see it progress, which we're doing at the moment. So It's very exciting. They've been working really hard, Poppy and Staten, on the edit. And Poppy learned to edit, and Staten could already edit quite well. And now suddenly they're both fantastic at it. And that's really... I'd recommend to any director, any screenwriter, just to learn to edit. You suddenly understand so much more about filmmaking, the ins and outs, and how you can, shoot a film. It does make a huge difference.
I seen last week, I think it was, Poppy had posted, or Staten had posted saying, You know, it's sunny outside, and here we are editing.
Yeah, no.
Stuck
Bless
inside
them.
it.
And where their edit suite is in the sort of loft area, and it looks like a really big space. I went, oh wow, that looks like they've moved. No, it's just the angle of the photo. They're literally cramped in a little tiny corner of their loft.
Phone pressed
Bless
against
them.
the wall, you know.
Yeah, exactly. The glamour of filmmaking, right there. That's it.
Well, that's it. And I guess that's one of the things you were talking about with Alex, was how he had started off. I can't remember where he started off, but he'd kind of worked through the stages to get to where he was, and he'd learned all the different areas of filmmaking.
Yeah, he did VFX and sort of post production. So he's some big films he's worked on, that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he just moved into the directing side. But he started his podcast before he'd actually directed a feature, and it was him doing This Is Meg, the feature film he made, and he made it on the podcast, if you like. So he talked about it every day, what he was doing, how he was making it, and that gave me the inspiration to start the Filmmakers podcast, because I thought, well, if you can do it and get a feature out and talk about it the whole time, I thought, well, what a great way to not only advertise what you're doing, but at the same time learn from it massively, and talk about it, talk about what you're doing.
And that comes across in your podcast, because you talk like your intro that I ripped off at the start.
It was good.
And it's evolved over time, but it keeps things like The Dare, Serial Killer, you know, World of Darkness, keeps all them sort of fresh in people's mind, and it generates interest, because I want to see them. You know,
that's what I'm so pleased you said that, because I always feel a little bit like, I just keep talking about my films all the time, the introduction, and my mates go, Giles, you're not on the podcast now, stop talking about your film. But you know, if I don't talk about it, no one else will, you know. So you kind of go, okay. And I also try not to talk too much about it. When it comes out, I was talking with Johnny Grant, the co-writer with me the other day, and we said when it comes out, he'll come on the podcast. We'll get all the cast. We'll do constantly the Dare updates, new Dare podcast. What? You've just done one? Nah, another one. Sod it. Sticking another one out. I'm going to force you to listen to it.
That's maybe what, you know, I mean, people who listen to Filmmakers will be wanting to see that, because that's almost like the Infinity War of your podcast in a way. You know, it's been building up to that.
Well, it was you had started it prior to episode 1, because you talked about it then, and obviously it's still not out. And what was about 10 months ago you started the podcast now?
Yeah, I think I put it on iTunes 10 months ago, but I think it's coming up to a year, you know. I need to look that up. I actually don't know when I actually started. I can't remember. It's coming up to a year. Let's go with that.
And then sort of all the way through, and you've had this, you know, your film at various stages.
Yes.
And it just keeps going along. So just to hear it all come full circle when it's actually out, and it'll be just this nice story to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, it will be, and it's good that people are paying attention to that in some way or other. But why I loved doing the podcast, I get to talk to other indie filmmakers and see where they're at with their film, how they're progressing, what they're doing, and it's, you know, making a film's really hard, and everyone's journey is different, and that's been really interesting to hear. Before I did it, I'd read all the books, read all the screenwriting books, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I've made films. Then you listen to people making films, you go, oh shit. There's so many different ways you can do it, and so many different avenues you can go down, especially the sales and marketing side. That's new, and that's fresh for me right now, because I'm doing it right now. So I think it's, so it's been wonderful, basically. It's been really cool. The first 3 months were tough as fuck, but now it's like, okay, cool, I know what I'm doing, I know how to put them up, and we can guests come to us, so it's definitely worth it.
So is that what's happening now? So you've got people approaching you saying, I want to be on your podcast, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Excellent. That's good.
I'm backed up with loads.
Oh, that's fabby. Yeah, I
was thinking,
people. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking about that earlier, thinking, did you have to be sort of, you know, planning a good few months in advance to get people into people's schedules and stuff? But that's really great to hear it's the other way around. And first, you know, definitely.
Yeah. I think what changed was when I got Mark Strong on. Suddenly people were like, oh, it's a real thing. This is serious. Oh, I thought you were just messing around with your friends in your room. Oh, you've got someone interesting and important on. Even though before that we had so many really cool people on. You know, we had the editor of Gravity, for fuck's sake. But suddenly you get Mark Strong on, and suddenly people are going, "Wow, this is real." And technically he's not a filmmaker, though he wasn't. He is now. He's actually producing a TV series. So, you know, fuck it, I'll get him back on.
that was the Gravity one was brilliant though, because that was the first one. I remember when the whole retweet thing started for me. I don't know if it started for you at the same time, but when it started for me, and we all started sharing like what should we listen to review and things like that, and I messaged and said, which one would you recommend? And you said episode 10, and I went and listened to that and heard some interesting stuff. Like, tell Steve about your part in Gravity, because you personally had a role in Gravity, didn't you?
Yeah, well, so yeah, technically. So I know through Gillian McGregor, who then came on the podcast to talk about The Stolen, her film. She knew Mark, the editor of Gravity, and he called her up and said, "Listen, I need someone to be the face of this." At the time, it wasn't called Gravity, and we weren't really told what it was. We were given pages of the script at a time, and she called me up and said, "We need a guy as well. Will you come and do the bloke part?" And I'm like, yeah. At the time I was acting loads and was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Turn up, we read it, and we sort of see it's set in space, and they're videoing our faces, and they're getting all to say all the lines in American, by the way, which is, you know, my American accent's a bit shit, but we sort of got away with it, and suddenly the next thing I know, and it's for Gravity, and I sort of knew that Robert Downey Jr. was doing it, so I was like, okay, it's cool. It's a film with Robert Downey Jr. and I'm just standing in for him. Turned out, obviously, Robert couldn't do the film, and George Clooney came along. But when they were actually showing it to George Clooney, I mean, this has been elaborated, by the way. Showing it to George Clooney and who's the lovely lady who's in it, the wonderful actress who won the Oscar.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, thank you. I know her as Sandy, obviously. And so they showed those guys, me and Gillian, doing the whole film. They'd CG'd us into the suits and into this whole... I mean, Mark might have, again, elaborated all this, but apparently they all, with all the execs, sat and watched us perform Gravity, and that's when they all got the, you know, George and Sandra said, yes, I'll do it. Again, I might have elaborated that story.
But again, if it wasn't you, it might not have been George.
Hey, there you go. George probably watched that and went, I can't have this guy showing me up. I need to do this part. Yeah, massively. So technically my DNA is in Gravity, and Mark says that 100% your DNA is in Gravity. Probably some of your movements, your facial expressions are probably in Gravity. I didn't get the fucking credit, so fucking, you know what I mean?
Still put it on your CV though.
Oh yeah, damn right. Everyone like, well, it can't be the same Gravity because there's only two people in that. No, I'm the Eskimo.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
He's an Eskimo. I love that scene with the Eskimo when they start. She's chatting to him, and he's just chatting shit. And then she's going, "No, but help me!" And he's going, "Yeah." It's a wonderful moment of filmmaking,
especially when it's been such a, you know, it's a tense film, and then you've got this moment going on. So.
Yeah, and apparently Jonas, Christopher Nolan's brother, directed those bits, all that stuff with the guy. And there's a if you ever bother to search and you love that film, then there's a whole scene that he directed. It's like a short film based on the life of that Eskimo, and it's cool as fuck. Yeah. Jonas Nolan directed.
That is kind of interesting. We nugget there. Eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go. Put it in your show notes. Now you have to find it, and you have to link it. Sorry, just cut that bit out. Up to you now. Choice is yours.
That's fine, because hopefully we'll have our website up and running at fcpod.net by the time this goes out. So
boom.
We'll hopefully have a big bit about the episode as well around around the Embedded podcast itself. So nice Steve, write that down. Going back a bit to the sort of unabridged origin story, I suppose, of the Filmmakers podcast. So, you know, you said the Indie Film Hustle inspired you to go and do a podcast. How did Filmmakers podcast come about from that stage? Like getting Dan, Christian, and Andrew. I was going to say, I was about to say James there, but that's Christian's surname.
Christian Joe's surname, yeah.
Sorry,
no,
Andrew.
Yeah, it's all right. His professional name's Andrew Roger. I know him as Andy. And he's such a wonderful lad. And obviously he's the DOP of The Dare as well.
Mm-hmm.
And many of my other films, including World of Darkness and including another film we've got and including the TV series. So I obviously rate him. Either that or he's got something on me. One of the two. I'm not telling you which one. Most people think that he's my brother, by the way. He's just done an ITV drama. I mean, you've probably heard that on the podcast, but he's just done an ITV drama with Tom Riley and various other people like that. And I kind of know Tom from doing I Want Candy back in the day. Well, I do know Tom from that. So I said to Andy, go tell Tom I said hi. And the first thing, Andy went up to Tom and said, oh, yeah, by the way, look, I know Giles really well. He says hi. And he went, are you his brother? First thing Tom Riley said. So yeah, we do look alike. We very much do have that. He's just got a long beard and long hair. But how did it come about? Yeah, sorry, went off on a tangent. It's great because normally I can't go off on a tangent. I normally have to keep it really serious and do the interview stuff. So it's great to just chat shit.
We really love tangents.
Tangents, yeah. So I just sort of sat down for a while and thought about how I would do it. Whether I'd do it as a review show. I did think for a while maybe I'll review films as well and talk about filmmaking. And I just wrote all these ideas down about which was the best. And in the end, I just kind of went, no, it has to be us lot talking about filmmaking. I just didn't think I'd have enough interesting things to say. So I wrote down like titles like, well, this can be on screenwriting, this can be on sales, this can be on... And then in our first episode, we talked about all of it, and I was like, "Oh shit, where do we go from here?" But I always knew I was gonna do interviews. I always knew that was sort of my way into it. So, yeah, I like I say, I got the boys involved, just asked them all separately. I said, "Look, this is what I'm doing. Do you want to do it?" And because knowing they're all working like me, I thought we'd all share the load. And whenever someone's not here, someone else would do it, and this way, that way, So that kind of worked out well because. Usually I have one of them or two of them. And in fact, even though we've just done our 56th episode, there isn't one episode where all four of us have done a podcast together. Which kind of says it all. We tried at Christmas and CJ got ill, so we did it without him. But yeah, so hopefully one day. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about. And I just spoke to Jason Sanderson, who's this wonderful Johnny Grant's mate as well, screenwriter of The Dare. And he said, speak to my mate Jace. He runs a load of podcasts in America. I went, what? He says he edits them all and puts them up. I said, all right, that sounds crazy, but brilliant. So I spoke to him and he's just fantastic, full of ideas of how I should actually put my podcast out, which was basically don't go on iTunes straight away. He said, do not do it. Go on SoundCloud or whatever other platform first, set your website up, tell all your mates, get it going there. So when you do go on iTunes, they get all of your numbers in one go, which means you go right up to the top of the charts and suddenly people might pay attention to you. So we did it that way and it did really work. Number 2 on the iTunes charts and suddenly it took off from there really.
That's sneaky. I wish I'd known that one.
Sorry. Set up a new one now. Just, you know what I mean? Just take it off and then start again. He's gave me loads of tips. He was just wonderful to have. He's like my podcast guru. And yeah, it really made a huge difference to how I did the whole planning. So I literally had a month. I was like, 2 months you've got to do this. 2 months you're going to promote this way. And then the 3rd, 4th month you're going on iTunes. Yeah, it was tough because you just desperately wanted to get on iTunes straight away. Everyone's going, "Why aren't you on iTunes? Why aren't you on iTunes?" I said, "No. I'm doing it this way." It
takes a bit of discipline there to kind of pull back from that because iTunes is almost your gateway to many other podcatchers that you've got out there. Because I'm sure Podcast Republic, which was my favourite, is linked into iTunes directory. So that answers one of my future questions of what tips and advice would you give to any future podcast? Avoid iTunes.
Yeah, it just honestly, anyone thinking of making a podcast or doing it that way, don't put it on iTunes straight away. You just go to the bottom of the list. No one's interested. Whereas if you get all your numbers up, it does make a huge difference. So that's, big tip. Big tip.
Is the American Football Cast linked on iTunes?
No, not yet.
Don't do it.
Don't do it yet.
I'll hang fire.
Steve's other podcast branched out, and the next episode, or the first episode on its own account, is due to go up when?
I posted them all between last night and this morning, so I just haven't...
Shows how much I pay attention.
Wow. What do you mean you posted all of them?
6. Well, we had 6, so we at the Fair City podcast, we
Yeah.
started off on there and did our American football cast, and the original plan was probably somewhere between 5 and 10 episodes. We weren't too sure. We're just going to gauge interest, see if it worked for us, things like that as well. But we've enjoyed it that much, and we just thought it was the time. Right, we'll go and start our own channel, because there was a couple of people that just, funnily enough, they just couldn't put two and two together to find us. They were looking for American football and couldn't find it because we were under Fair City Podcast. So
I see.
So yeah, so we branched it out. So it's got a separate Podbean now. So I've just re-uploaded the first 6 episodes onto that. So,
Perfect. So you just did 6 in one go. That's interesting.
I've done them over a few weeks, but I ripped them all up, but I dumped them all in one hit just to see how it goes.
I see.
But yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. And see, American football for me is an interesting, because I saw that and I was like, okay, and I listened to some of the stuff that I wouldn't have normally listened to. I went, okay, I'm going to listen to this and see what I make of it. It's American football, and I really enjoyed it. Because I watched the Super Bowl for the last 2-3 years, and in fact, the year before I was in America with Richard Short, one of the actors in The Dare. Should be a drinking game every time I say it. And I'm there at Richard Short's house from The Dare, and we're watching the Super Bowl, and I can't believe how great it was watching it in America, and I kind of fell in love with it a little bit. But American football's cool. It's just not my sport because we don't play it here. So
no, we don't. Yeah, it's very low key over here. It has been building through, certainly like Sky getting the rights of it for the last 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, and having the Wembley,
the Wembley games has really kicked it on
huge
level. Yeah.
But that's good. Well, good luck with that. I'll help you promote in any way I can.
Thank you.
And that's something to mention, actually. Is a big thanks for all your sharing and retweeting and shout outs for the Buff Geek podcast, Fair City podcast over the last year or so. Really appreciated on that. And I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about the podcasting and the podcast community, especially on Twitter, is it's not competitive dog eat dog, we're better than them. It's we're all sharing, we're all saying, go listen to these guys, go listen to these guys,
Yes.
We're all in it for each other, and I really, really enjoy that part.
I totally agree. I think it's wonderful. Yeah, because at first you do think that. You think, oh, God, no, I don't share other people's because people might go to them instead of you. Mm-hmm. Well, they go to them instead of you because they prefer that podcast. I don't think there's anything you can do about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it took me a while as well to appreciate the share thing. But the Britpod scene gang and doing all that kind of stuff is wonderful. You guys, obviously with the Buff Geek and also 365 Flicks podcast, it's not massively similar, but it's similar. They're similar talking about films and, and certainly 365 Flicks, they talk about filmmaking as well. And I've got to know them now, and we're going to, be on each other's shows soon. And I really like that because, like you say, we're all in this together and it's a group thing, and all podcasters, or if you're thinking about doing a podcast, or you're doing a podcast, retweet everyone else's stuff. You've got nothing to lose. They'll only like you for it and retweet your stuff. And if they don't, we'll stop. Yeah. But yeah, all these groups we're part of on our phones that send us so and so, and you'd go, okay, cool, I'll go retweet it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then they won't retweet you. So and I've met some really cool people from it. Yeah. I think it's really important as a podcaster to just not be precious and just join in and share and be part of that world. And that's why the Britpod scene's brilliant. Yeah,
and that's what I love. I mean, every second day that I've got a new podcast following, and if I haven't already followed them, I'm following them back straight away. Mm-hmm. But I'm in both retweet groups under 2 accounts. So when people post into both, I suddenly get 4 notifications. I'm like, I need to hand this Twitter account over to someone.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, he's looking at me. It's like,
he's proper eyeing you. Proper eyeing you up. I love there's a lovely rose painting behind you. It's kind of got, it's very red in the middle. Is it a rose or is it what is that?
Probably a poppy. I don't know.
And I don't know because it's not.
What is that?
Poppies are black in the middle.
What is that, IKEA?
It probably is. I really don't know.
Whose house are you guys in?
It's mine. It's mine. I don't know. No, this is my wife's art room, so this is kind of her space. So she might have the computer. It's a slash office. It's the quietest room in the house. So.
It's got some awesome art in the corner, though.
Oh God, yeah. I'm slowly infiltrating some of my stuff into it. So I've got
look at that.
Holy
shit!
Logan print.
What did you do that? Wait, did you make that? Oh, fuck! I was about to hire you.
I got this at Edinburgh Comic Con a couple of weeks ago. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'll get a picture of that up on the site as well, so people can see what we're talking about. Listen back.
Yeah, absolutely.
and the red poppy type picture thing that's in the background as well.
yeah. You got that from Comic Con as well. Yeah. That was Deadpool, isn't it? Deadpool playing a prank on you. He's like, yeah, here you go. A signed Deadpool poppy, but it's not signed. Promise you, Deadpool gave me this. Fucking did.
Oh man, that would imagine that.
I know.
You should actually do that. You should just like put 2 Deadpool eyes on it. See how long it takes.
You could do. You could
Superimpose it
put
on.
2 eyes on that. No one can see this. You know you're gonna have to share the picture now because no one can see this. Or again, just cut this out.
No, seriously, put the eyes on and see how long it takes your wife to notice.
Oh, that'll take a while, yeah. Because actually, even though this is her room, she's hardly in it.
Did you see someone? I seen a meme on the internet the other day, and someone had taken their friend's X-Files DVD collection and rearranged the DVDs so it read Sex Life. And they're like, let's see how long it takes to notice.
Oh, I like that. We should do that as well. There's a group of us who sort of, I mean, we're all grown up now, I suppose, and we go around each other's houses and we have dinner. And when the host's out the room, we'll go to their bookshelf and turn them upside. It's so, wait, I'm saying this. This is so lame. I just realised how lame that is as soon as I started saying it.
But
How daring are we? We turn each other's books upside down. See if they notice.
the thing is, I would do that for some people because if I knew how bad their OCD was,
Yeah, exactly.
How
That
annoyed
would fuck them up.
they'd
But then
get
they'd
when
notice straight away.
Yeah.
rip out the last page.
Yeah, best way to do that, and this is the game. Oh yeah, this is the game we should have done. Was bought a really shitty book, something they didn't want, like Sex Lives of the Potato Man or something, and put that in the middle. So when their guests or friends or family came round, and went, "Oh, what's this?" That would be funnier. Not just turning them upside fucking down. What a lame trick that is. I can't believe we do that. Apparently we do. Anyway.
No, that's good. So, what would you say your aspirations with the podcast are then? Because, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of there, to be honest, with the fact that you've got guests approaching you and you're having to kind of fit them in, and you're putting them out at quite a rate, to be honest, because that's 54 in less than a year. That's
56.
Is that, sorry.
Come on.
54 was the Alex Ferrari one. Sorry.
Got it stuck in your head.
I think, actually, a friend of mine said to me the other day. He said, "Listen, I love your podcast, blah blah blah, the dare," and he said the only problem is there's too many. He said if you're putting them up every Tuesday, and I miss a couple because I'm busy or I'm doing something or I just miss it, and then you do one on a Friday as well if I'm doing a bonus episode or a part 2, he says then I feel like it's too many and I feel overwhelmed. I went, that's really interesting. So I've kind of pulled back a little bit now, so I'm definitely doing every Tuesday, but I've just stopped doing the bonus episodes on a Friday, even though it doubles my numbers. I just think that I don't know, you kind of want to maintain that audience. So yeah, I've tried to calm down a little bit on constantly putting Tuesday, Friday. I will if I have to, and if it's such a good podcast that I don't want to cut it down into 45, because I really do try and get it 45, that I won't. But what do I want? World domination with it. No, I want to just keep going the way we're going and just keep people sort of listening, and I get really nice messages and stuff, and I really like that. And a few people have come up to me now and said, I'm making my film because of your podcast and because of you guys being inspirational for us, and I really like that. That makes me really proud and happy that someone has got off their ass and written a script or is trying to because of us. And that means the world to me. And if someone comes back in 6 months and says, here's my film, I finished it, this is because of you guys, I'm that's
going to be a pretty wow moment.
It is, yeah, and I expect a fucking exec producer credit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just pointing that out. No question about it. No, we're not messing. I've got it. I've got a tweet. It says so. That's a contract, isn't it? No, I'm. Yeah, like I say, I just want to get bigger and better guests. I say bigger and better. These people are amazing. Don't get me wrong. Who I've had on, but just keep growing. I say Danny Boyle would be one of my. I'd love to have him on. Christopher Nolan, anyone like that, who I respect and really love. I'd love them to come on and. That's the aim. The aim's just to keep growing, to get more filmmakers inspired and get interested in it, and not filmmakers as well. People who just like hearing people talk about how films get made. So I don't know what the podcast has been amazing for me. Honestly, I've met so many amazing filmmakers and producers and screenwriters from it. That is not film school can't teach you that. Going to so many of those evenings, those filmmaking evenings people put on, and you have to go and say hello to people. If I went to 1,000 of them, I would nowhere near have met the contacts I've met. And this isn't just contacts; these are people who I can sit down with for a coffee. I can send them a script. I can say, "Will you look at this?" And in fact, one of the first cuts of The Dare I sent to 2 editors who'd been on the podcast. And another filmmaker who I didn't know before the podcast, and said, "Would you mind?" And they gave me such an amazing feedback, and that's invaluable. So for me doing the podcast, even though the first 3 months was tough as old boots, and I'm literally saying, "What am I doing? Why am I doing it?" Now I'm going, okay, now I see the long game. Just keep going, and I just hope I don't get found out.
And I think that's an interesting point you raised in there as well, is that people who like to hear about it, because sometimes I hear the things and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, and it's not something I'd have ever thought about, and sometimes it gets quite technical, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I think it's when Andrew starts talking about the different camera is it Andrew?
Yeah.
He talks about all the different camera types, and I'm like, that sounds really, really cool. I have no idea what it means, but that sounds really, really cool.
But interestingly, he says the same thing. He hardly ever talks about it, and when he does, he goes, "Listen, I know this is boring as fuck. I'm just going to mention it." And he does every time. He says, "This isn't interesting. No one cares what you shot it on. I don't give a fuck myself, as long as it looks good and the story's being told right." And that's the truth of it. You can shoot on your iPhone, and I promise you this: if you want to make a film, you can shoot on your iPhone. Just know how to use it. Know how to, frame someone in the frame right. Know how to work actors and make your story right. Yeah. So, and as much as, Andy's dead on there, it is boring. And I find it boring. I've listened to some other podcasts where they talk in depth about camera technique. I'm like, I'm sorry, no. It's too much for me. It's not my game. So we do try and keep ours light and fun and interesting, and literally about the craft of making film, which is, working with actors, which is the script, which is how you actually made it and sold it, got the money, all that kind of stuff, which, is incredible. It's incredible where it can come from and how you can do it. And honestly, on the podcast, we do tell you that, and we do give that. So yeah.
I think that's coming back to that is the sort of the friendly bit and the light-hearted bit, and you can tell you guys are all really good friends, and that makes it interesting. That's what I think keeps me coming back, even though I'm quite far behind at the moment. It keeps me coming back for it.
That's the Tuesday, Friday episodes. Yeah, that's it. It's 2 minutes. You go, you fucker. You put another one out. How am I going to catch up now?
Well, the thing is, I've got there's 2 that I listen to or try to listen to a lot, which is yourself and Fresh Talk, and it's like I just don't have the time of day. I've got 2 jobs. I try and do the podcast. I've got 2 kids.
You got 2 kids? Yeah.
2 cars. You know what I mean?
2 cars. I've got to drive them at the same time.
It's really hard because you got to drive 10 metres, run back, get the other one, drive 20 metres.
Yeah, that's hard.
3 hours later, I've got out my street, but
I travel a lot. So like I say, whether I'm on flying somewhere or I'm on the tube a lot, going to meetings. So therefore, I listen to podcasts. Then it's like my time, and no one bothers me, and I can just do it. So I then can catch up, and I can listen to a lot. So I do. And it gives me tips and tricks for mine as well. There's no question about it. You go, oh, that's a good question. I'll use that. Or I like the presenter's technique there. He wasn't too interested, and he wasn't taking the piss too. There was just certain things,
Yeah.
and also you probably know this. When you listen to yourself back, you go, "Oh God, I do that same thing. I say the same bloody line all the time." And especially if I'm trying to find the next question, which is why it's quite nice doing this, because I'm not trying to find the next question. I'm going, "Go on, then. What's your next question?" What you got?
And I'm going, "Oh my God, what's my next question?"
What's the next question? No, this silence. This is radio. What the fuck? We forget. We can cut it down. But when we're in a room with people or on Skype, you suddenly feel like you should be on it and on it and on it, like some sort of journalist at a press conference. It's like, no, actually, it's cool, and no one really minds. But I have no idea what I was talking about. I forgot.
And I think that's where the editing is quite handy though, because you've got this like silence. So I was quite good on the last one, where if I didn't have the question ready to go when we were talking to Sean, I just let it be silent while I looked and got myself ready, because I knew I knew I was going to cut it out, and make it.
Yeah.
And the flow gets
And
better.
actually, there was a podcast, another podcast guru I was listening to. He said, "Don't be frightened of silences."
Mm-hmm.
He said, because actually silences make people listen. If you've got a silence in a podcast like this one, it makes people lean in and sort of go, "Sorry, did I miss something? Was that something important?"
Yeah. Totally catches their attention.
Well,
really
yeah, it kind of
does.
does.
Yeah.
And this
Especially
is...
if anyone's listening to it in the background, and
Yes,
they're doing
yeah.
something else. So, I mean, I listen to just about all my podcast listens while I'm driving on the commute to work. And I know you can do that on autopilot, but there's a couple of times where I catch myself, I'm like, wait a minute, what was that? And that's the annoying thing, because you can't then get your phone and rewind it and try and...
Not when you drive.
legally.
Oh, yeah. Well, he can't, because he's got two bloody cars. he's there in his each car going, rewind that one. Shit, I've got one in each side.
So
make a podcast
sure
on
the
this
other car's
side.
on a delay.
I just wear headphones and a VR headset.
VR headset, that's brilliant.
Who needs to see?
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, speaking of which, have you thought about putting this, on YouTube? Because haven't you done that? Aren't you doing that? YouTube?
Yeah, so the podcasts are going on. They're just image only at the moment. We haven't got the sort of the software, the technical ability, or the equipment to record video yet and edit them and things like that. It would definitely be a future plan. So I suppose an aspiration for us would be to raise enough money between us to get that kind of equipment.
Well, actually, do you know what? There's plenty online for free. Like Ecamm, you can record your video straight from. He's writing it down. Straight. I can see him. Straight from Skype. So you'd record my end of it and you'd record your end. Popternative do that, and therefore he can put it straight on YouTube, and he gets some great guests. So people tune in because it's for that reason. Tune in. Who tunes in anymore? You know what I mean? Tune in next week. What the fuck? Like a little dial on your podcast. Tuning into this. What the fuck am I talking about?
We are on 89.4 FM, 7 o'clock.
Every Tuesday. I love it. No, but so video's the way forward. But I thought about it, especially with the Mark Strong one or the Rupert Graves one. I thought, well, I get so many more people. But then I'm busy as fuck, and then the effort of putting them up on YouTube and handling that, oh God, it just drives. I just think no, podcast's enough. That's fine. That's what we do. But I really should video a little bit of it so I can at least put video out. Mm-hmm. Which I did when, like we say, did the Mark Strong video of him just saying, "Listen to the podcast." Had 600 views and how many bloody retweets was 600 retweets, whatever, and so many views, crazy. Mm-hmm. So it can make a big difference. But yeah, it's hard work. And podcasting's hard work.
So you guys always have you always used the same studio since episode 1?
No. Episode 1 was in a really near me. There's some studios in Mill Hill in London, and because it was the first one, I didn't have microphones, I didn't have stands or anything like that. I went, I want to do it properly and make the first one sound amazing. So we recorded 2 podcasts that day. Actually, we just talked for 3 hours, so I just cut it up into 2 podcasts. And yeah, so that was a studio near me. And then over time, I just used various places and wherever I could, people's houses or whatever. And then I got speaking to Simon, my mate from football, and he went, "No, I heard your podcast. Do you want to come use our studio?" And I went, "What?" He went, yeah, come and use Just Voices Studio. And I went, oh man, that'd be amazing. So yeah, we've got to deal with them now. It's an amazing, cool little place in Victoria. I recommend any podcaster in London to go to, and you'll get a great deal. Certainly if you mention the Filmmakers podcast. Yeah, definitely recommend that place. Really cool. But now I've got my own mics and stands and stuff. I do travel, so I use Directors UK, which is a director's base in sort of well, it's not Soho, but just to the right of that. Yeah, so I can call them up. Now we've affiliated with Raindance, I can use their spaces as well. So, yeah, which helps when you've got a bigger guest. If you've got someone big and you don't want to drag them to your house or drag them in some, you know.
Yeah,
And
right enough.
imagine if they came to your house and they have to look at that tulip or whatever it is. The little daisy on the wall.
I know.
I mean,
like, we did a big
art.
extension in the house recently, but I mean, this room didn't get touched. This is still like old school. It's one of the worst rooms in the house now. It's just
It looks great.
That's why we get shoved in here for the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Your wife's down there going, oh God, they're doing that stupid thing again where they talk to each other and laugh a lot.
Pretty much, yeah. She's got no idea.
She's got no
She's
idea.
lost in the world. As soon
Yeah,
as you mention
absolutely.
podcast, she's no
Exactly.
idea. She's just
There's
out.
no way she could listen to all of them. It's like, no, you do your thing. And if there's really good one, let me know. But otherwise, you crack on. Yeah, same here.
Well, that's it. My first, the first episode of the Fair City one. I got home one day and Ash says to me, "Me and the girls listen to your podcast." I'm like, "Oh, what do you think?" And she's like, "Oh, we got 10 seconds in, cringed and switched it off." I'm like, "Thanks."
You're like, Bird,
ultimate
you're like,
support.
really?
It's like thanks. You know?
Yeah, thanks
10
so
seconds,
much.
bless.
Really appreciate that. I think I got, your voice is very high, isn't it? You sound ridiculous. Do you really know what you're talking? Should you really be doing this?
I
Yeah,
always think
all
it's
those
funny
things.
when the voice in your head is not what other people hear or what gets picked up on
Totally.
microphone. And then you
Yeah.
hear it back and you're like, that's not me. That's
That
That
not
can't be me.
That's where
Yeah.
editing is horrific.
Horrific, because you hear yourself,
Just listen
oh
to your
my
voice.
God.
Yeah.
I suppose coming from the acting background, I'd heard my voice before, so it wasn't so bad. And I kind of started off radio presenting, actually. Not started off, that's ridiculous. I was doing plays and theatre, and I managed to fall into doing radio presenting, which was really cool. I loved it. But it's a different technique to podcasting, because podcasting is just talking. Whereas radio, you're going, coming up next, it's Westlife. You know? It's just cheesy as fuck. And as much as I love doing it, I have not done it for 15 years. And even then, it was just covering for breakfast shows around the country and stuff. I don't know. Podcasting, weird.
I like that. It's like just covering for breakfast shows around the country.
Sorry, just the dare.
Brilliant.
Just
Don't play
dropped
it down. Did you say the dare?
You did.
I did. Have you
Drink,
drinking?
drink,
Are you drinking?
On it. I'll be buzzing my nuts off soon.
I know, yeah, I am, mate. Don't worry.
The unofficial sponsor, Monster.
Monster. Well, Christian James did some Monster adverts on. He was talking about that a couple of podcasts ago, and he was like, "I can't mention what the product is. I can't mention what it is." And I went, "Is it Monster?" He went, "You fucking arsehole." I'm like, "Yeah, it's Monster." Right? So then from then on, whenever he said, "I've just got back from shooting," was it Monster? It's Monster. So yeah, he actually did do all their latest adverts for Monster. Which
that's
is cool.
pretty cool. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll need to
And I think that's what's cool about the podcast is we're all making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all actually filmmakers doing it all the time and coming off sets. So we do know what it's like and we do understand everything that's going on. And we've all got projects. So Dan's in LA right now. He's doing another documentary, but we're also doing our vegan documentary together, which is super exciting. And I can't wait to... We're already starting prep, but we're about to start the actual filming process. And that's going to be cool. It's going to be really interesting.
How far afield are you going with that? Like, how is it just in London, or are you
No, we're going. So we've got a lady in South Africa who claims by going vegan, it cured her cancer. We've got a farmer in Aberdeen who totally is against veganism and thinks it's ridiculous. And we've got various people around the country who are all meat eaters who are basically going to go vegan for a month. And we're documenting their story and how hard it is in certain places like Barnsley. I know because I support Barnsley and I go there a bit, or Huddersfield, where you're trying to find vegan food, or you're trying to find something that's not got milk, dairy, or meat in it, and you've got to survive on that. And when you're not living in London where it's much more accessible, how hard that is, especially if you're in a town in Texas. So we're going everywhere. We're finding people from all quarters of life, and we're seeing how hard it is to go vegan for a month. And we've had 2,000 at least, if not more, so far, volunteers going, yep, I'll do it, yeah, I'll do it. All meat eaters. So it's going to be a really interesting documentary. We're going to speak to nutritionists and doctors and lawyers and government about why they believe or don't believe in veganism, and why it's not promoted in hospitals, and why people are people are sort of advised to have milk and dairy to make you feel better, and it's just kind of crazy. So it's really interesting. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. No, I did see you putting out the sort of appeal for volunteers, and I thought about it and I was like, I can't do it.
Why not?
I have no willpower when it comes to food whatsoever.
That'd be really interesting though. I think that'd be fascinating. I reckon you should do it. And I'm going to put you on the spot now. He's like, no way. And I think that'd be really interesting for you to go, I can't do this. And you know what? If you fail after 2 days, you fail after 2 days. I say fail. And I mean fail. Because after 2 days you go, yeah, do you know what? I can't do this. That's okay. That says we want that in the documentary. We don't want to be like, oh, veganism is the best thing in the world and it can change lives, even though it can. We want it to be much more how difficult it is. And it's not easy. And, there are downsides and there are, all sorts to it. So
if you're up for it, come from barbecues, and I don't know what your barbecue was, but mine was 99% meat.
There you go.
Just this massive.
If I go to a barbecue, right, and they've got meat, but then they've got like all the side stuff like coleslaw and potatoes and loads of other non-meat stuff, I'm like, shove it to the side.
Get the meat.
3 burgers. Yeah. Those potatoes ruined my space for a 4th. So
Well, do you reckon that if you did go vegan, you went back to that barbecue and you went, here you go, I've brought myself some vegan sausages, that you'd get the piss taken out of you as well?
They could try.
But it's family, it's not so much of a problem.
But you're quite buff. You go to the gym, so you can maybe handle yourself. Obviously, it's true. But that doesn't mean people don't take the mick, and we think that's really interesting. We think that's what it should be explored. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're up for it, I'm asking you again on the spot.
When are you doing it?
He's going to get himself ready now.
Yeah, he's preparing, literally eating meat now as we speak, just in case.
It's like I'm getting the meat sweats thinking about it.
Getting the meat sweat. This is a meat cute right here, right now. Listen, I have a barbecue all the time, and we put on vegan food on it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But yeah, listen, I don't want to preach about it. I really don't. But I think it'd be fascinating for you to come on and do it. I'll hold you to it. I'll ask you in the future. No pressure, but honestly,
okay.
I think
okay. Ask me again once I've
got off the air.
Process it and maybe research vegan alternatives to some of my favourite foods, like Aberdeen Angus burgers.
That's probably it, though. It'll be the lack of knowledge is the biggest thing. Because if someone said to me, so we tried no carbs for. Yeah. I did it for about 8 weeks.
At the start of the year.
So only meat and vegetables, basically, and just about everything else was cut out. My word, did you find, to begin with, it was the same 6-7 meals just on a rotation until you tried to find new things. Yeah. And it was, you just get bored of it really quickly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that lack of knowledge is probably like why a lot of people maybe don't go vegan, or they either don't know about it, or they don't understand why. Or it's just they just instantly think, oh my god, I can't eat this, and this. That means there's nothing there.
Yes, exactly.
To be honest, if I was smart about it, it would probably help get me back into training.
There you go. Do you know what? That would be interesting. How it affects your muscle mass and how it affects you, as you're eating different kinds of food and what your body does and how you'd shred and how you could just, properly buff.
Because I, being perfectly honest, I haven't been properly training in the last sort of few months, and I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm doing Tough Mudder next week, which is...
I was going to say, Jesus, how are you going to cope?
12.5 miles or something like that. I am not going to manage.
You're going to be like
this
me.
This is the worst shape I've ever gone into Tough Mudder, and last year was the best shape I'd ever gone into it. So it could be interesting.
That's going to be... Well, your time's going to be shit, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, always is. We've been 4.5 hours the first year, and I don't think it got any better.
I'm going for 12.
12 hours.
12 hours. You're going to be that, like at the end of the marathon, where 2 days later, they show someone crossing the line? You know what I mean? And loads of cameras come out. There's just one guy going.
It's usually a guy like in a deep sea diving suit because he's like a clunk for
someone really old. Yeah, that'll be you.
You'll just be trundling along next to him like, yeah, high five for crossing the finish line.
High-fiving just random people on the street. They're going, what's going on? The London Marathon. What? What are you doing? Tough Mudder. No, I'm doing Tough Mudder, innit? Yeah, look at me. Not eating for days. Literally wilting away. Sweat pouring everywhere. Struggling.
Collection of those seedy chocolate bars, chocolate bites they give you halfway around the course.
Yeah, just a collection of them in your pants. Going, what's going on? What's that film with Tom Hanks? A fantastic one where he just keeps running and running and running with a long beard in the end.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. It'll take you that long. You'll look like him at the end of
it. Come to the end of the finish line and Giles and Nat are standing with cameras and they're like, yeah, we walked up from London when you started this race.
And they're like, right, so we're going vegan, yeah? Oh, brilliant. No, I'm honestly, I'm going to ask you to do it, and I'm calling you out on air. See what happens. Look at his face. If you could see his face.
See, this is now. We wish we were recording this. So
yeah, exactly. Yes. Quick, take a photo. Quick.
See the panic. Oh man.
Oh man, that's it. So anyway, yeah.
Anything else you want to ask, Steve? I'm just thinking of.
You look at your questions. Well, Steve asked.
Well, Steve laughs.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We've not killed Steve with laughter.
We've not killed you.
Come close a few times. We almost killed him at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned this in the podcast. Have you heard it before? But we had our Buff Geek.
You've only done 4 of these.
Well, that's true. We were doing the Buff Geek review of 2017.
Right.
And it was the first time we had Stu on the podcast, and me, Johnny, Steve and Stu were all sitting there, and Steve was dying. He had the flu or something like that.
Yeah, I had a flu. I didn't know I had a bad flu. I just thought I was a bit under the weather and my asthma wasn't great.
And we were just trying to make him laugh, and then Stu got him with something that almost killed him, totally rendered him incapable.
Oh, really?
Noise.
And asthma
awful.
kicked in
yeah,
full on.
Just a broken
we don't know how to
mess.
stop it.
We were meant to record 2 that night, and I said at the end of the first one, I was like, I'm going home, I'm really not well. And the next night I ended up in the hospital because the flu was that bad. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was these guys trying to break me that put me in the hospital.
That's dangerous as fuck. You can do you know what? You should go on sabbatical from laughing.
Yeah.
Right, that's it. No more laughing.
Just got to be miserable.
Miserable. Or just, they got to try and make you laugh. But obviously now you go, no, nothing's funny anymore. Like Will Ferrell does it so well, doesn't he? Where he just sort of puts that face on where everyone around him is pissing himself and he's just holding it together.
It's like the Saturday Night Live sketches where you're like, Jimmy Fallon, stop laughing!
What was the one was it you that showed
Gus Chiggins?
No, the old guy, the
prospector.
Prospector.
Gus Chiggins.
Man, that's hilarious. But you're right, he just gurns around and does his stupid stuff.
Oh man.
And people just can't help but wet themselves.
So we'll bring Will Ferrell into the office one day.
Totally. Get him to look at your little painting behind you. Your little flowery design. Bring him in there. Go, Will. He'll piss himself at that. No question.
What do you think of our Deadpool tulip, Will?
Well, and what do you think of Deadpool? Come on. I know you've talked about it, but not with me.
The sequel was... I really enjoyed it.
I loved it.
I don't think it had the raw charm of the first one.
Of course not. No.
And the first one had all the sort of budget restraints that led to a lot of the gags, like leaving the guns behind and stuff like that. But overall, I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think the whole team thing, like branching off into the X-Force movies, is a great idea. I do think we need another Deadpool, almost solo movie again.
Yeah.
But I think an X-Force film where he's not the focus would be quite good as well.
Okay. I know there's definitely a Deadpool 3 kind of happening. As far as I know. But yeah,
I don't insider information there.
Spoiler. Yeah, me and Ryan, we just got off the phone.
Not his twin brother Gordon, no.
No, not him. I don't know. I struggle with a lot of those films. I do. I sometimes get a little bored with the same thing over and over. It just feel like that. I know it's not, but I do struggle. But Deadpool was like a breath of fresh air, and it came in and hit the mark. So I enjoyed it. Kingsman, another one I really enjoy.
Yes.
Not just.
I still haven't seen Golden Circle.
Have you not?
I was about to say that.
I've got the fear with it, right? Because Kingsman, I went into the cinema. I knew nothing. I didn't even know the title. My brother said to me, "Let's go to the cinema. You will like this film." Okay. And I was like, right, okay. And he knew how much I loved Kick-Ass and that. And so I was like, right, okay. And I went along. And like the end sequence, my mind was blown. I just thought it was fantastic. Yeah. The use of Freebird for a mass murder scene in a church is just amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. Especially Colin Firth doing it as well.
I can't look at... I mean, I have so much... I liked him anyway, but I have so much respect for him after that film because it was just... It was Colin Firth, but... He was an ass kicker as well. It was
and he looked cool as fuck doing it. It looked like he could actually do that. It was brilliant, and it made a star out of Taron Egerton as well. So
yes, and he's very good.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah,
strong. So no, Kick-Ass 2. Don't go in with massive high expectations. Go in and free your mind and just go. Yeah, I know what I'm watching, and just watch it, and you'll love it. The ending is brilliant. Yeah. Mark. Then, you've heard the Mark Strong one, so
I've
gave
heard
away spoilers. Yeah.
So there was, but it's okay.
That's okay. But it's really worth seeing. I love that film. I'm really big fan. Mark did us a favour actually. Oh, I don't know if I should say this. Fuck it. He was in my stepson's bar mitzvah video as Merlin from Kingsman.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That is pretty cool.
He was cool as fuck and just sort of said, "Yeah, all right, I'll just film this for you." and my stepson didn't know. And then we played it on the big screen during the bar mitzvah, and it was just a really nice moment. And all his friends are going, "What?" And that was nice. He was going, "Hello, Kobe." It was just really cool. That was my Mark Strong doing Scottish.
Already better than our Scottish accent.
Do you know, me and Dan Richardson, we constantly do accents to each other when we're on the phone. We're supposed to be having a serious meeting, we'll suddenly just break out into accents. And Scottish is one of our favourite to do. Dan's really good at it. And
is he?
Yeah, he'll go, right, yeah. Come in now, you're going to talk about this production again. And you're just like, what is going on? And it's just wonderful. And we just sort of then in character for ages. Because me and Dan met on a film called The Harsh Light of Day, which is a really cool little vampire film if you like vampire films. It'll still be around somewhere. Really low budget indie film. And we met on that, and we just got on so well, like really well. And like I say, we just used to mess around and do accents all the time, which wound up obviously everyone in the crew and stuff. But we bonded, and we stayed friends. And
who cares what the crew think?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares about the crew? No, obviously love crew. Obviously. Love doing accents, man. It's fun. So when I asked Mark, I said, look, why Mark Strong? Why are you doing the how come Scottish? Why were you doing it? And he went, I just felt like doing something different. I didn't want to be me doing the voice. I wanted to, do something else. And this came out. He just said to Matthew Vaughan, how about I play him Scottish? Matthew went, well, I'm not really sure about that.
Some of the greatest inventors have come from Scotland, though.
Go on then.
What's his name? Yogi Bear.
Logue.
John Logie Baird, that's it. The guy who invented the TV.
Alexander Logie, the great Graham Bell. He came from Scotland. Braveheart.
The phonographic telephone, or telegram, or whatever it was he called it. The telephone as well.
Yeah, the telephone.
E.G. Bell.
Penicillin. Probably heart attacks. We're pretty good at them.
Prostates. Haggis. Yeah, wait, what? We can go on.
There we go. There's his origin story.
Polos.
Yeah, we looked at a sheep and went, let's boil the guts and see what happens,
Oh my God. Oh, as a vegan, you understand how horrendous that is? That's unbelievably horrendous.
As a meat eater, it's horrendous.
I love it, but
do you? Seriously?
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste.
Do you have it? Do you have it like I was going to say scrambled? Do you have it battered Is it like a battered haggis?
Oh yeah, you can have from the chippy. Yeah.
From the chippy.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
But that's
It's like-
not. I mean, that is really not good for you.
What would you like for tea tonight? I'd like the inside of sheep. But I wouldn't just like it like that. I'd like it battered, please.
Yeah,
Properly
and deep
battered.
fried.
Deep fried.
And
Really
then
bad for me.
A good, kilo of chips on the side as well, and deep
Full of
fry them while
salt.
you're at it.
Sauce, vinegar, gravy, the lot,
Absolutely. Yeah, do it all. Do it all.
Oh,
Some
man.
iron brew to wash it down. Why not? Why not?
I think the whole you're saying about how you and Dan met and bonded really well and stuff, and I think that happens quite a lot in film and TV. So when you see like sort of celebrities hanging out and you think, oh, they're just doing that, because they're two famous people, but odds are they've probably really bonded when working on this project together.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done lots of sort of youth theatre shows and an Edinburgh Festival Fringe show, and the people I've worked with on it, and the people I've worked with, some of them I still consider like really, really good friends, because you do have to get on because you're practically you're not living together, but you're spending a damn lot of time together.
Ton of time.
No, it's good to hear that. Like that's how you and Dan met, kind of thing. Nah,
It does. That actually does happen all the time, especially as actors, because there is kind of a bit of downtime, and if the production isn't up to standard, even if it is, actors do like to bitch and moan, and so it's their way of connecting. Mm-hmm. And if you've got to work together with an actor, and you're an actor in it, you talk about everything within like 10 minutes. So you find out what the policies are, what the politics are, who they've been out with, who they know, what drama school they went to, who's their agent, within 10 minutes. So suddenly that's huge bonding. It's like, I know it, you know everything about each other. Oh, therefore you know Chris. Oh yeah, and he went out with Sam. Oh God, yeah. And suddenly you've got that connection. It happens all the time. So, and they have to as well, as actors. You kind of have to get into that mindset of, well, we have to do this. And when you did the amateur dramatics, you connect with people. I say amateur dramatics. You did your fringe shows as well. That's But you connect because you're in this together and you want to form that group. And yeah, me and Dan became great friends from that. And I met CJ. He was casting for a film that unfortunately didn't happen. And I'd just done I Want Candy at the time. And whether he'd seen it or not, I don't know, but he called me down. I went all the way down to Bournemouth, and I was like, why the fuck am I going down here for this? And I met him and Dan Palmer, and just was like, you guys are amazing. Just really liked them, and yeah, we just stayed friends. And then I was in their last film, Stalled, just as a cameo. Yeah, it's amazing how you meet people in the film world, you do stay friends. Nice people, you stay friends with them if they're nice. And there's a lot of arseholes in this business. You've just got to know who they are. You've just got to, and you only learn that from experience. Like, are this person full of shit or not?
And you can probably get a good indication of that pretty quick now, where it's like someone inexperienced.
Yes.
You could probably guide them away from that person,
Totally, yeah, you can hear it straight away. You can just hear someone's, not desperation, but they want to make it in the film world or the TV world or in theatre, and they hear someone going, "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm making this project." A lot of producers wandering around. The thing is about being a producer, you can call yourself a producer even if you've not made anything. You can go around saying, "I'm a film producer and I'm going to make this film." You might never make it, but what that does do is gives them kudos in their world, and so actresses come up to them, and it's mainly guys doing this. I've never met a girl producer who's done this. And it's horrendous, and there is that horrible, seedy side of it. You've just got to have your wits about you, and speak to people with experience about that person and say, "Look, should I be doing this? Is it even worth hanging out with them?" But you don't know because you never know. You just never know.
And do you find it sometimes hard to kind of, that sort of the camaraderie we were talking about before, when you're directing? Do you find it hard to come out or to see the sort of actors all getting together, and do you get involved in that camaraderie as well, or do you have to pull yourself away from that and be like, no, I need to stay focused on directing the show kind of thing, or directing the film?
Great question. It's absolutely right. I have to pull away, and that's, at first that was quite tough because I loved that camaraderie and joining in and the banter and the jokes and taking the piss, in certain situations. And as a director, you can't do that. And yeah, that was quite interesting for me at first, to not be part of that group and to actually go, I don't want to be. And it took a bit of time for me to say, it's okay, let them have their group, let them talk and bitch and moan and love the project, whatever they want to do over there. I need to be the leader. I'm the leader. As a director, you have to lead the troops, and you have to understand that you're that leader and take the bull by the horns and go, this is my show. I can't be messing around with you lot. And then literally a minute later go, sorry, no, it's not what I need. They won't take you seriously. Or crew members seeing you doing that. You've got to be friends with them. You've got to, they've got to trust you.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily do that if you're messing around, hanging around. So it's a very different thing being an actor to being a director. In that sense, it's a great question. And yes, directors have to be show to be the leader. It's like you're not a teacher. It's the wrong word, but you have to be commander of a ship.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I suppose I'd equate it to a previous management role where I couldn't.
Perfect.
I was so used to working in that job as a colleague and a friend to everyone else, and then I went to another place as a manager, and I had to stop myself from being all that pally kind of way, because there were times where I'd have to sit someone down and say, look, you're not doing this right.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to pick it up, kind of thing. And
that's really hard if they're your mates, and they become mates. So yeah, that's tough. But it's okay. You've got your crew who are your friends, and that you can do that with them. Not as much because you are. To be honest though, when you're directing a film, you don't have time. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
You don't have a minute to sit and bitch and moan. You just don't. Actors can go off into their room, or they go off and get looked after, or get hair and makeup done, whatever it is. That's when they bond. You're not. You're thinking about the next shot. You're setting something up. You're thinking about all this stuff, where the camera's going to go, how it all joins together, how the next costume's going to look. Someone's coming in and saying, what do you want, red or blue? And it literally is that, and you have to make a decision. If you don't make a decision on the spot, people think you don't know what you're doing. So even if you're not happy with your decision at the time, make a decision. So go red. And later on, change your mind. That's okay. You're allowed. You're the director. So listen, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Please, can I have blue? Fine. But if you don't make a decision on all aspects of it, and I just don't mean just red and blue, then you don't. It's really tough to get respect and for people to know what you're doing. And that's hard as hell, because you're on set going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I want red or blue. I don't know if I want the camera there or here. I don't know if I want the actor to cross across, or the light to spill across the face there, or many, many other things that come with that. And yeah, that's you've got to get your head in it. And I was a mess for 2 weeks after shooting The Dare, drinking, and I was for 2 weeks afterwards. I was absolutely nightmares for 2 weeks. It just because you were so focused on doing something and not sleeping and just thinking about it, that it's a really tough job, no question about it.
I can totally get that, just from even just doing things for the podcast or whatever, and I've starting the website and things like that, and I'm going to bed at night and I'm thinking, then we need to do this and I want to get this there, and I think my problem is that the website's not. I've forgotten how I set up the old website, so I'm like, what do I do?
It's
to
horrible.
relearn it all.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's not easy. Yeah, but tiny bit of advice. Who knows if there's any directors listening to this who want to do it, and they probably heard it on my podcast anyway. But is video yourself every night. Do a little blog to yourself. It doesn't have to go anywhere. Talking about exactly what you said. I suggest this in any work form, actually. Podcast. Just do a little video message to yourself. Okay, tomorrow I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to do that. Make sure you do this. Okay, cool. And then you can sleep. And I found when I was doing that every night, it's like therapy. It was like talking to a therapist, that I got it all off my chest. Like I said, I'd recommend this to any walk of life now, whoever's doing, whatever job. And you've got all that thing to think about. Just say it out loud to yourself on video. Put it on video, because then it's there and it feels real.
Yeah. I did something at work very similar to that. It was on time management and improving your focus and stuff. And that's almost the same idea. They were like, if you've got a job to do, put it in your calendar, and then it's out your head and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You have this physical box that exists outside just so you can get rid of everything.
Yes. Great idea.
Kind of like what you're saying there, just if you talk to yourself at night, you record that stuff, you can get some peace and quiet, and then boom, you're ready to go the next day.
Perfect. Yeah. And what it did for me in making the film was that I now have some brilliant behind the scenes stuff. Because I was doing that on set as well. So I've got that. I was talking to actors. So I've got all this behind the scenes footage that's just, you wouldn't normally see. So I think that's, for me, if for no one else, is I can look back on that and go, what did I do wrong? What was I doing right? Why was I so crazy? Why was I so wide-eyed? Why was I doing what I was doing, you know? So yeah, no, I'd definitely recommend that for sure.
So do we know, sorry, I was going to say, do we know when the Dare will be available for viewage?
Viewage. Like sewage, but with a V.
Oh, well, no, that's terrible connotations then.
Yeah, it's shit. No, we don't know at the moment. Because we're doing the final, all the final little tweaks at the moment for it. There's a big possibility we're going to be in some festivals soon, where we'll have it'll be an early screen. It'll be a premiere. It'll be like world premiere of it, but it'll be an early screening of it, or a couple. But then it'll probably be out next year, beginning of next year. I don't know. I'm about to sit down with the sales team and go through all that. But they're a massive sales team. Millennium Films are huge, so it's not as easy as that. There's a lot more things to talk about. So, which I'm over the moon to be with them. But it's they're dealing with big films, and yours isn't as big, so it's tough to get through sometimes. But I'm hopefully soon, and obviously I'll be banging on about it, and everyone will be drinking because I won't stop talking about it when it's released. But it'll definitely be next year. It might not be. I don't know. It should be the beginning of next year, if not late this year. Yeah.
But sometimes the smaller films are the better ones because people are sort of more invested, they work harder at it. Even the sort of lesser known ones with bigger names. Like, I keep raving about a film called London with Chris Evans. Have you seen it? With Chris Evans, Jessica Biel and Jason Statham.
No, I've heard of it.
Right.
Is it called? Is it London Fields or is it just London? Is it
just London? Yeah, it's on Netflix now, and I keep raving about this because it's one of these films I've not actually met anyone else who's seen it yet.
Right.
And I love it. I've seen it years ago and I still love it. And I think the appeal.
I need to check that out. Yeah, go on. The appeal. Sorry, the appeal.
And I was just going to say the original appeal was it was like, oh, there's the Chris Evans. I really like that guy. This was pre-Captain America as well. And I was like, I'm going to watch this. And then Jason Statham's got hair, which is really unnerving. But he's got his side part, and he's a financial banker of some sort, like in Wall Street. Not Wall Street. Wall Street. I can't remember. But it's really good, really enjoyable. And yeah, it's one of these films that, again, no one's heard about really, but I really enjoy it. So yeah, it might be the smaller film under Slate, but you never know how it'll do.
That's true. Though I think in that case, with those names in it, I can't imagine that was a small film when they started out. But maybe something happened with the marketing and sales, and because it costs so much to market a film, people don't realise how much it costs to get a film out there and put it in cinemas. It's just not worth your time. It just isn't if they think it's not going to make the returns because it's just so expensive. And the advertising of it is so expensive. This is why it's so important to have that in your budgets when you start. Just have a P&A spend and have a marketing spend and a strategy behind who you're targeting. It's vital. It's similar to a podcast, actually. Who's your market? Who's your audience? How are you going to target them? Yeah. So with all of that stuff, it's a minefield. You just never know. You never know. Get Out, the film last year, could have just disappeared. Because it just, it got the bandwagon. It got lucky. It got great marketing and press, and it just could have been one of those quirky indie films that a few people saw and went, "That's cool," rather than it blowing up and being as big as it was. Yeah,
and it was. I've still never seen it, but I've never heard a single bad word about it yet. And obviously, it did well at the Oscars. And
so you need to watch that and Kingsman tonight.
Yeah,
and then you need to blog to yourself about it, and then go to sleep.
Be like, dear me, you really enjoyed Kingsman because
because Giles said you would like it.
Definitely. No, it is on the list, and it's just trying to fit everything in, especially when I'm trying to rewatch the Rocky series at the moment because I love Rocky.
No, I'm not going to say that. No, I can't. I can't say that. No, I can't say that. I actually can't. It's unfair to say that, but I just knew it.
Giles hates Rocky.
No, I love Rocky. Love Rocky, but it was just about the new film, the new one, and the casting of it. But I can't.
Oh, right, okay.
I just can't tell you. But anyway, it's just some really nice information about, the casting of the new Rocky film. But find
Well,
out.
We'll find out, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you think, oh yeah, I can say. No, you actually
you
can't say that. You can't. Yeah, but
I get that a lot, but it's usually just because it's offensive. So
yeah, there's that. Do you find that you sometimes cut a lot of stuff out that's maybe too offensive?
I am actually not too badly behaved on the podcast. I think having kids tempers, sharpens my ability and sort of tempers my desire a bit to make sure I say this. Whereas at work, I'll maybe whisper something to Steve and set him off and then walk away.
There is a line, and David will routinely go way beyond.
Right. Okay.
When I'm at work, and I just have to sit there and suck it up because I'm like, I cannot laugh in this building. People will look at me and think I'm really strange, and I just sit there. And
and you might have to go to hospital for it. We don't want that.
Well, there's always that problem. Yeah.
I do like kind of just spitting in the general direction of the line, don't I? Farting in its general direction.
Yeah, its general direction. Yeah, I like it.
Anything else you want to cover, Steve?
No, that's been there's been loads. I can't actually believe we've hit an hour and a quarter.
It doesn't feel like it.
Wow.
This might be our Infinity War.
Yeah.
We've peaked.
This might be your three-parter. Welcome to part 5.
We'll cut off the last 10 minutes and they have to come back for it.
Yeah, it's like a special. People do the Patreon where people have to pay for it just for the last 5 minutes of us laughing and talking shite.
There we go. There's the £5 tier.
Yeah, there's £5 from your auntie. Auntie Doris has given you a £5 to listen to that last bit. Wow, thanks, Auntie.
And all she gets is thanks for listening.
See, that would be really funny, if I'd paid for that and I was like, listen, guys, thanks so much for listening. Take care, bye-bye. You know, when you'd rewind it, you'd go, wait, no, I'm pressing the 15 seconds back. Press it. What is going on? What is going on?
You would either be like, that's brilliant, or you'd be like, I want my money back
Exactly.
right now if I don't want compensation.
Yeah, I paid £1 for this.
It's like there's a Reliant K song on one of their albums where they just go, I just wasted 10 seconds of your life. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. It's true. You just wasted 10 seconds of mine.
Yeah. I'm not even sorry.
I know. This is a loop. It goes on. This song will never end. It's just someone in the world right now is saying it. Oh.
So, Giles, tell everyone where they can find you on the internets.
On the internet, I am, the Filmmakers Podcast is at Filmmakers Pod on Twitter. I've just set up a Facebook group, by the way. This might be interesting for podcasters, even though we've whittled on about all sorts of shit that's probably not interesting for them. But someone told me the other day, because you know what Facebook's like when you've got a page, you put links up and no one, they don't push it out to everyone because Facebook don't want you to go away from their platform. So someone suggested to me, they said, why don't you do a group? Groups make a huge difference to you can control who's in it. You can put whatever you like in it, and Facebook can't do anything or affect it. So I was like, wow, okay. So I've literally just set up the Facebook group. So you'll find us at Filmmakers Podcast. I think I just added you as well, didn't I? Didn't I add you?
I will look. It might be there. I've got so many notifications on my phone right now.
Wow, popular guy.
I actually disabled my Facebook notifications, I think, but I'll go in there and have a look, and I will definitely be joining that group.
No, I think it's one of these that you can't not join. I think when I ask
oh, right, okay.
It's like, it's a group where I say, these people are in my group. It's like a birthday party where you put people in it. So they can't get out of it. Yeah, you can, like, they're in it. So it's like forcing people. You will know about the podcast. You will. Yeah, so you can find us there. So go and join us that group. I think you can only join that group if actually you're my friend. So that's a weird. Anyway. Well, you can't if you don't know me. You can't join the normal page, and you'll see none of the messages from it. Do that. That's always a trick. We're mostly active on Twitter, though, to be honest. Twitter's our big place. A lot of stuff happens on there, and especially with the Rain Dance collaboration, there'll be loads of information about that and the discounts for anyone wanting to join Rain Dance, which is great, or any of their courses. So that'll all be on our Twitter as well. Or you can go to filmmakerspodcast.com where there's all 56 episodes. Or when this comes out, there might be 57, 58, 59. I'm going to say that so you can drop that in. You can edit it in. 69, 71, 105.
I'll just keep updating this podcast every time you release it.
Yeah, every week. Yeah, every Tuesday. Oh, God, I've got to do Giles's again. Oh, my God. Got to cut in another number. Yeah, that's where you can find us. I'm Giles Alderson on Twitter, @Giles Alderson. That's pretty much it. You can find us there. We're on iTunes, Podbean, SoundCloud, all those places. Wherever you want to listen to the podcast, you'll be able to find us. Yeah, Filmmakers Podcast. There is another one called the Filmmakers Podcast. Don't follow them.
Dirty, rotten, good for nothing, low
down. Yeah, that's interesting. But we're the colourful one. We've got the colourful image. To be honest, I think he's only got a couple of podcasts on there, whereas we've got 5,900 million. 6,900 million.
And I think your colourful logo actually is what caught my eye as well.
Yeah.
So,
there you go. My sister designed that for me. Shout out to my sister Lois. Boom. She did that. She's based in Huddersfield and she does graphic design. So I said, listen, can you do something really cool for me that has film and is podcast based? And she went, how about this? And I went, sold. So yeah, she's really cool. So she did that. Yeah, it's a cool little logo. I like it. It's our brand.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's like we're going through that at the moment, and you get given something, and you're like, I love it. I want to go with that. And I'm going all in on the one we've been given at the moment.
Oh, because at the moment it's a picture of a bridge.
Yeah, which is just a local sort of not even a landmark, it's just a local
landmark? It's a local landmark.
It's not a landmark.
Come and visit us in Aberdeen, where we have a local bridge. It's a landmark, I promise you, Mrs. Doubtfire. I can't wait to come up and see this landmark. There's going to be people listening to the podcast now, all 5 of them, who've got to this point, who will be going, oh my God, where is this landmark, this bridge? They'll be taking your logo before it goes, and they'll be putting it into...
So annoyed when they get there.
They'll get all the way there, they'll be like, what the fuck is this? This is just an old, abandoned... What the fuck is it?
And I'll just be made to stand on the bridge with my head hanging in shame. Sorry.
Well, they take photos and shoot you with apple blossom.
Bows and arrows and whatever modern weapons we've got up this part,
Whatever we've got, we're just gonna pelt them at you. We're gonna meat patties. Everyone's turned vegan now in Aberdeen. We're gonna pelt you with meat patties and make you eat them, and then make you do Tough Mudder the next day. You will.
Oh man. It's definitely not a landmark then, is it?
Definitely not. It's definitely not.
I think the best way of describing it is it's almost like iconic in that it appears in any kind of local branding. There's a good chance someone will use the bridge, the concert hall, possibly the sports centre, because it had the biggest dome in Britain until the Millennium Dome came out or something like that.
I know what we'll do to publicise the sports centre. That's what we'll do.
We're all fit bridge crossers in Perth.
You've got London. You've got the London Eye and Big Ben, right? Whereabouts is it? This is Aberdeen, right? Is it? You've got they're going, let's use the fucking sports hall. Oh man, that's amazing!
Well,
yeah,
Aberdeen probably better their sports hall than their sheep. So
I don't know. I can't imagine this sports hall looks amazing. I'm not imagining it as some sort of graphine building. That's it looks like some beautiful architecture. I imagine it's something straight out of the 70s. It's got some shitty.
Probably, yeah.
I'm so putting a picture of this on.
Please do. Oh, Doreen,
people
look at
will be
that.
like, this bridge and this sports hall,
Yeah,
really?
Kev, we're changing the branding. We're getting the sports hall in there.
I'll get the sports hall in there. Come to Aberdeen, we have a beautiful sports hall. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh, just what's your new logo?
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, what is
It's
it?
actually, well, the bridge is still there.
It might not be so.
It might not be anymore. Covered in pies.
Given recent
Gone.
feedback. The main sort of profile though is just going to be, it's just basic a square with FCPN in there, so
Nice.
that's
That's
like
better than a bridge.
better than a bridge.
It's a viaduct. Wait, it's a viaduct, right? It's a viaduct, is it?
No,
No. It's like a
it's just for
viaduct.
cars.
It looks like an abandoned viaduct.
We should maybe just market it that.
How to brand your podcast. I love this. Love it.
Don't do what we did.
Oh, just flicking through iTunes. Oh, look at this one. It's got an abandoned viaduct. I must listen right now. Oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, your logo's okay.
That's funny. Oh, you've tickled me tonight. Thank you. This has been fun.
This has been fun actually.
fun.
Like Steve says, I can't believe we're near an hour and a half for our podcast.
Jesus
So that's
Christ.
been good. I mean, I just want to say, Giles, you've been a fantastic guest on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Definitely, and I've been, since I mentioned it to Steve, because we've been talking about having guests on, I've just never quite had the courage to kind of start asking people.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask. There's no harm in asking.
Yeah.
And then when you said yes, I was like, awesome.
Awesome. And then, oh shit.
Yeah.
and I've had that. He's had to deal with me, my excitement levels going from yes to oh my god to yeah. So it's been
Try and keep him stabilised for a few days.
I like to think of myself as quite emotionally kind of
Charged.
stable and in control.
Special.
But then we talk retrospectively, and I realise that I am.
All over.
I'm.
Best way to be. Best way.
Nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with this.
Nothing to do with Monster drinks.
That should be in the next advert.
Do you know what? You should actually contact them and say, listen, supply me with a Monster can every podcast, and I'll promote it. You know,
And our
on the
12
bridge.
listeners will
Yeah.
maybe go and buy one.
Yeah, and they'll go to the bridge with their can, and they'll drink it there. You know, Monster. What more do you want?
The black circles on the bridge could get the green M in there. There we go. Perth Monster Bridge.
I can't wait to come up and see this.
Yeah, well, if you are ever in the area, just let us know.
I will.
Even
I
if we just
doubt
go out for drinks or out for something to eat or something like that, definitely let us know.
I'll come to the local vegan restaurant. Yeah.
You go in and be like, "What's your vegan options?" They'd be like,
What?
Well, we've just cut the grass, so I think that's maybe just me. So being mean to the
I'll
local
be like,
knowledge,
listen,
but
I'm allergic to cut grass. What can I?
oh no, I have
And
vegan
it's
with hay fever. Oh no.
Yeah, no. And there's someone who plays football as well. I'm actually allergic to cut grass. It's such a shit.
No.
I'm alright. You know what I mean? I survived.
It's a nightmare. I had it. I don't suffer so much now, but
No,
as a kid,
same.
we discovered it when I had a grass fight with my friends. Came home, my mum thought I'd been kicked in.
Right? Yeah, there was full rash all over your body.
My eyes were almost swollen shut. You know?
Jesus. Yeah.
Looked like someone at the fly, you know.
I know. Yeah. Oh, boys, brilliant. So
But
much
no,
fun. So
thank
much
you.
fun. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much for being on the show.
No
Steve,
problem
you
at
want to say anything? Sign out.
Just the usual. Thanks again. Extra special thanks to Giles. Much appreciated. It has been brilliant. You'll catch me on Twitter at Pranker. Get me on Facebook at Stephen Houserath or on Instagram at Stephen Houserath.
What about your other podcast?
Oh yeah, there's something I do on the side. Yeah, and the AF cast as well. You will find us American Football Cast.
Super. And obviously Buff Geek as well. You're not mentioning that, or no?
No, we're mentioning.
I was leaving it. I was leaving it to the man in the
it's
chair.
all yep. So, yep. And firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you to Army of Freshmen for our intro music as always. The Fresh Talk guys kindly let us use that, so much appreciated, Dan and Chris. You can find us on Podbeans, iTunes, and most podcatchers, including Spotify, by searching for Fair City Podcast Network. Kind of regretting being on iTunes now.
But you can listen to them there.
Yep, absolutely. And you'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at FCPodNet, and you'll also get me at Buff Geek Podcast. Hopefully we'll have fcpod.net set up by the time this is released. If not, I will edit any mentions out. If you want to see the sketches of the bridge, Giles, just go and have a look there now. It is live.
Mate, I'm listening to this now in the future, and I am literally Googling the bridge as we speak.
Smeaton's Bridge, there you go.
Smeaton's Bridge.
Smeaton's Bridge.
They're going to be over the moon about this publicity.
They're like, we had 12 calls today inquiring about a bridge.
Complaining. You sponsor this disgusting podcast. I am complaining.
But no, guys, if you liked what you've heard tonight, please let myself, Steve, or Giles know. Please go and listen to the Filmmakers podcast. They are fantastic, and there's lots and lots and lots of insight. Giles, thanks once again. You've been fantastic. It's been such a laugh. Steve, thanks for not dying.
Yes, thanks, Steve.
That was a last-ditch effort there.
I can already feel. Yeah, I was getting a bit ruppy at the end of it.
He's like, I want to go home now. I want to go home.
And then he turns around, he's like, here I am.
Brilliant. All right.
So, yeah, thanks for listening. My name's David. See you next time.